Are the Titans set on taking Cam Ward, or have they really not made up their mind yet and not decided what they're going to do with the first overall pick? We're going to dive into that today. We got some Titans signing news. We got Jim Wyatt on the show to talk through what the Titans are thinking at quarterback. This is the Music City Audible. Let's get to it. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Music City Audible podcast, brought to you by Broadway Sports Media in partnership with 440 Sports. I'm Justin Graver. With me, as always, Justin Melo. Justin, we're just a few weeks away. We're recording this on a Thursday. I believe that makes us 4 weeks away from the day of the first round of the NFL draft finally kicking off. How's it going?
Doing well. This is going to be a good episode. You know, the fact that Jim Wyatt carved out some time for us after getting back from Miami and Cam Ward's pro day. Really appreciate Jim for doing that. We had such a good, thorough conversation with him. Tried to put him on the spot about what the Titans are doing. Obviously, he knows. He's probably making the decision himself. He's been there so long. Right. And really excited to get into that with Jim.
Yeah, no, I think it is pretty telling. Not telling, but it's kind of obvious, I guess, that the Titans writers like Jim, the Titans media department, like the guys they sent to Cam Ward's pro day, they don't actually, no one in the Titans building has told them, hey, the Titans are taking, this is what we're going to do. We're going to take Cam Ward, so let's make sure we have the video team down there to get it behind the scenes documentary. No, this is the video team has their own meeting, apart from the coaching staff and the scouting staff, and they're like, hey, there's a really good chance our coworkers decide to take Cam Ward. If that happens, we should be prepared. So let's send the media team down there. And over the last few days, Justin, with all the reporting, Adam Schefter's putting out these tweets that are like, oh, the price for the number one pick just went up because the Titans really like Cam Ward, but they're still open if someone wants to make them an offer that blows them away. And so I thought it might be a good time for us to talk about if the Titans really are still undecided on what they're going to do at the quarterback position. But first, let's talk about some news. I want to talk about some draft visits. The Titans are hosting a few prospects and a couple of signings. So the Titans have signed wide receiver James Proche. I think calling him a wide receiver is generous. He is a special teams player. He's a guy, 28 years old, 5'11", 193 pounds. He's played 5 seasons in the NFL. Over those 5 seasons, he's totaled 28 catches for 299 yards, but he has 68 career punt return attempts. And I think that is why the Titans have signed him. They needed a punt returner that they can actually rely on, that might be able to make an explosive play here or there, but somebody that definitely is not going to muff the ball. On those 68 punt return attempts, he has just 1 fumble. So I think that's why they signed him. This isn't like, oh, the receiver room is fixed. He's going to supplant Van Jefferson and Treylon Burks, but another guy for the back end of that room, I guess, but mostly for the special teams purposes.
Well, you might supplant Treylon Burks. Anyone might supplant Treylon Burks. So I'm not going to say that he won't do that. Okay. No, I agree. This is a special team signing. Look, John Bones Fossil has kind of come in and revamped this room almost completely. New punter, new kicker, same holder, of course. But on the return side, they're going to have new returners, right? Remember, Jaquan Jackson started the year as a punt returner last year and just kept muffing punts and losing balls. And they eventually benched him for Mason Kinsey. You don't necessarily want to have to elevate Mason Kinsey into that role, but they had no choice in the middle of the season. So this is getting ahead of that. 68 career returns, keep in mind, 1 career muffed punt. But remember, a lot of fair catches in there as well. So a lot more than 68 punts and still only 1 muffed punt. So this is a guy that's very shorthanded, very reliable. I do think he's going to come in and be their starting punt returner. Now, they don't really have a kick returner on the roster either, because last year that was Jaquan Jackson, Julius Chestnut. Don't think it's going to be those guys in 2025. But Proche, as you said, only 4 career kickoffs. So TBD probably on that front, but Proche is going to come in and help them on punt returns.
Exactly. The Titans also signed quarterback Tim Boyle. Tim Boyle, man. Tim Boyle might have the most interesting story of any quarterback in the NFL. I mean, he is a guy who just cannot stop throwing interceptions. His career numbers are 5 touchdowns, 13 career interceptions, and yet somehow this guy still keeps getting signed to NFL teams. And, you know, I think this signing there's 2 ways to read this. And Mike Herndon tweeted this out, and I agree with what he said, but either the Titans want to carry 4 quarterbacks in training camp. You know, you can use a 4th camp arm just to get reps for your receivers and like the way that you're going to split up the individual portions of the workouts. He's not going to get a lot of team reps. I doubt he would get any team. I mean, he'd get a handful of team reps per week. So they either want to carry 4 quarterbacks or they're preparing to trade Will Levis as soon as an offer comes in. They already have their next backup on the roster so that they can have 3 camp arms after they draft Cam Ward or someone else at quarterback. I don't know. TBD on that conversation. And so they want to be ready if they get the offer they are looking for Will Levis, or maybe they're already in negotiations, or if that happens during the draft, they want to be prepared to be able to trade Will Levis. So I think those are the 2 ways to read this. It's we want 4 quarterbacks in training camp, or we want to be ready at the drop of a hat if we get the offer we're looking for, that we don't have to make other arrangements to get another quarterback in here. We already have somebody. And I just think Tim Boyle, he was in Miami with Reggie McKenzie, so there's a connection there, at least somebody in the Titans front office who knows him. He must be the best meeting room guy in the NFL to keep getting signed with the stats that he has. Like, you're not signing this guy for what he does on the field, clearly. You're signing him, I'm assuming, for what he does in the meeting rooms, because I know he must be like a future coach at quarterback because he can't play, but there's a reason teams keep bringing him in, right?
Yeah, I can follow Mike Herndon's line of thinking, but I'm going to just say this one's a head scratcher for me, because if either of those scenarios plays out, it still feels a little excessive to me. Like, 4 arms in camp is excessive to me. I don't think you need 4, right? Like, I thought last year, I think the Titans had 3, and I thought they had a pretty good thing going with the 3, and everyone got reps, and it made sense to me. I don't see the need for a 4th, A. And if it's, door number 2, where it's, you're getting ready to trade Will Levis, I don't see why that 3rd or 4th arm wouldn't just be an undrafted free agent. Like, I don't know why it has to be Tim Boyle. Yes, okay, I guess the experience helps. And when you have potentially a rookie quarterback in there, I guess maybe you don't want another rookie quarterback working with them because you want someone that's more experienced. Does Tim Boyle add anything that Brandon Allen doesn't add? I'm not convinced that he does, but I guess I can get on that same wavelength, if you will. And on top of it, like, adding a camp arm in March, like, I don't think that's overly common. Was there a sense of urgency? Was Tim Boyle, did he have a lot of potential suitors? Maybe, I doubt it. But this one it confused me. It's a no-name quarterback who's not going to make the team. I'm not going to sit here and criticize them for it, but it was confusing to me. And another thing I'll say, to play devil's advocate against myself, maybe if you are drafting a quarterback number 1, that probably hurts your chances of getting a UDFA quarterback, because a lot of those guys, remember, they're trying to pick spots where they think they can make the team. They're not super interested in going somewhere. Although, look at the Bears when they Tyson Bagent was there for a while and he's still there. So it's possible, but I'm spending way too much time talking about Tim Boyle. But I didn't fully get this one.
He was also brought in as an undrafted free agent when Chad Brinker was in Green Bay. So there's actually 2 connections to the Titans front office. That connection
makes more sense to me, because he was barely in Miami, and I don't think Reggie McKenzie, I don't think that had any bearing on.
Well, yeah, it's just another guy who knows him more recently, I guess, than Chad Brinker knows him. But again, this is about Tim Boyle the person, not Tim Boyle the player. Like, these guys must feel comfortable with what he can be in the meeting rooms, or else he wouldn't be on the roster. And that's why why this guy. That's why, because of what he is going to bring to help Cam Ward learn the offense along with Brandon Allen. And I agree, if you think 4 camp arms is too many, I think this is the clearest sign we've had yet that they are not going to have Will Levis on this roster, assuming that they draft a quarterback. All right, on to draft stuff, because we definitely are going to talk Cam Ward. But first, let's quickly hit these 3 prospects the Titans have had visits with. Tight end Terrence Ferguson, offensive tackle Charles Grant, running back Caleb Johnson. Now, what's interesting about these 3 positions is based on where they're projected, sort of, and where we expect them to go in the draft, is maybe not where we were expecting the Titans to target these positions. Now, obviously, they got to do their due diligence if somebody's slipping, if they find themselves in a best player available draft approach, which we would prefer that they take that approach. But someone like Charles Grant might be a day 2 pick. Are the Titans going to spend the 35th pick or a trade back pick on a tackle when they just signed Dan Moore and you drafted JC Latham last year? Caleb Johnson, probably a day 2 pick at running back. Do they have the luxury to spend a day 2 pick on that position? Tight end Terrence Ferguson, I think, makes a lot more sense. I think I said this in the group chat, Justin. I think there's a chance they take a tight end in this draft before they take a wide receiver. It's probably not what Titans fans are wanting or expecting, but Mike Borgonzi, when he was asked at the combine, like, where are the roster holes on this team? He mentioned the trenches, of course, but then he said playmakers, wide receiver and tight end. Like, he put them in the same breath. It wasn't like wide receiver, oh, we could also use a tight end. Maybe we'll take one. It's like, no, they're turning over every rock to find playmakers. And if that means a tight end is higher on their board than a wide receiver, maybe they take a tight end in the second round. I don't know.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head for the most part, and I'm going to kind of just build on what you said. I agree that Terrence Ferguson, the Oregon tight end, which that visit was reported by Paul Kuharsky, probably the least extreme of the examples, still maybe a bit surprising. I really like the player, so I'm not going to complain too much. I think he's a two-way guy. When I say that, I mean I think he can block in line. I think he's got some good athleticism out in space and can be a weapon in the passing game. He's a big-time target up the middle of the field. I think he's probably like the 75th player drafted in this class, the 80th pick in this class. Now they do have 101, right? Or 102, whatever pick they've got there at the top of the fourth. So yeah, maybe he slips there and maybe they do take him. Maybe they take in a wide receiver at 35, or maybe they take a tight end before they take a receiver. Like you said, I think ultimately they need pass catchers, right? So if they think he's a better pass catcher than any receivers on the board, then I could get there. Right. But I will say, though, when it comes to allocating reps, I like what they have in Chig. I like what they have in Josh Wiley. So it would be a little questionable for me, to go there before receiver, even if they like him better than any of the receivers. Now, mind you, Chig is entering a contract year, and maybe they don't think they're going to keep him around. It's a new regime. Maybe they don't like him all that much. But it would be a little questionable. Now, the other two to me would be highly questionable. Let's talk about it. Caleb Johnson, the running back out of Iowa, who was just reported on Twitter by his own social media. He posted a photo of himself entering the Titans facility, and that's how word of that visit got out. I love the player. 6 foot, 225 pounds, 3-down playmaker, in my opinion. Can run the football between the tackles. He's got good long speed. He's tough. He can play in pass protection. I think he's got some decent potential as a pass catcher. There are better pass catchers in this class at running back, but he's good enough where he's going to get the job done. Look, if they were to take Caleb Johnson and he ends up being the best running back in the NFL, don't think anyone's going to look back and complain. And I do think Caleb Johnson's got the potential to be a really, really, really good NFL running back. Where I can't get on board with it is the obvious, right? Like they've got huge holes at receiver and edge. You're picking 35. You don't have another pick until the fourth round. Even if you trade back from 35, I still think we'd agree that running back is a luxury. I think this guy's a second round pick. He's been mocked in the first round in some certain instances. I think he ends up going in the second, certainly no later than the third. So I don't think you're taking him at 103. And if you do, even I won't complain because I think he's such a good football player. But running back to me, it just, and even if you want to say, Tony Pollard's entering the second year of a 3-year deal. He's not, maybe he doesn't play out that final year. Tajay Spears is entering year 3. And, I don't think this past year went to plan with Tajay Spears. And there's some injury stuff there. And wouldn't shock me if they tried to take a guy to replace him at some point. But again, they can't take running back with the draft capital that they have. And running backs might be the strongest position on the roster, or it's top 2 or 3. Right. And it's a bad roster. So that says a lot. So and then with the final guy here, Charles Grant, similar thoughts. I reported this one. He told me directly that he has a visit with the Titans. That's how this one got out there. In love with the player's athleticism. Great for a zone blocking scheme. He's just a freak in space. I mean, his story is so exciting. I didn't even fully know it. I'll put my hand up until I talked to him. This guy was a wrestler in high school, wasn't even playing football. And then he took down one of the linemen in a wrestling competition with the football coach in attendance and said, hey, you want to come try out? And this was already deep into his high school career. This was not, first year of high school. So he tried out for the team. He made it. That's why I don't know how many stars he was, but he's probably like a 0 or 1-star recruit. That's how he ends up at William and Mary. This guy's a late bloomer playing, low-level high school ball. Then he goes on and has a phenomenal – the tape is just stupid, right? Like it's just so good at William and Mary. And he's a freak athlete, but I do think he's going to be, it wouldn't stun me if he's a second rounder. And again, I think he's no later than a third. If he is a fourth, again, I think it's still a luxury because of what they've invested at tackle. So I love all 3 of these players, but all of them would be, I guess, somewhat questionable from a positional value standpoint.
Yeah, I think my biggest takeaway is knowing that the Titans probably will draft a running back, which we had in our mock draft last week. Last week. Monday. This week. Wow, it's been a long week, Justin. And if they take one early, like, I don't necessarily agree with the team building approach, but I also don't think that, like, if you think he's going to be a much better football player than the receivers and the edge players that are on the board there, like, you should take him over reaching for a guy that you don't necessarily love as much, even if it's a luxury position, because like you said, keep in mind, you don't draft necessarily for this year. You draft for next year and beyond. And next year, you might have a massive need at running back, and it'd be pretty nice if you had a guy who had already been in your system for a year, learning the ropes, ready to take it over. But I do agree that doing that before day 3 just feels a little crazy, especially in a class that has so many good running backs in it. Justin, let's transition to our final
roster. Sorry, and it's a bad roster, right? Like, it's not like this is the Chiefs doing this, right? Like, you've got a lot of
that's
holes.
The point. That is the point. Like, teams that can make the luxury pick of a running back on day 2 should be teams that are looking for that final piece. Like when the Lions took Jahmyr Gibbs in the first round, it wasn't, I mean, it was kind of a reach at the time, but it wasn't because of what the state their roster was in it by that point. The Titans are not in that state, so that's why I think it'd be kind of crazy. All right, so Cam Ward, Justin, on this podcast, we have sort of accepted that Cam Ward is going to be a Titan. That's pretty much been the focus of our last 5 episodes. I joked about changing the name of the podcast to the Cam Ward Audible or the Cam Ward Podcast or something, but the reason reporting this week I'm not going to say it's given me pause. I just think we should be open-minded is how I feel about it. Like, it hasn't changed what I think is going to happen. I just think we should talk about it more openly in the fact that maybe there's a chance the Titans haven't made up their mind yet. And Albert Breer reported about 3 weeks ago that the Titans were having those pro day visits before free agency so that they could get a better sense of what they thought of this quarterback class. But they also, he reported, wouldn't make a decision until they've gone through the full and thorough process. And they are going through that full and thorough process right now. Ian Rappaport tweeted out on Thursday morning, the Titans will attend a private workout for potential number 1 pick Cam Ward tomorrow. That would be Friday. After Ward worked out for the Browns yesterday, as in Wednesday. Those are Cam Ward's only 2 private workouts, Browns and Titans. Meanwhile, Colorado quarterback Shedeur Sanders has workouts for the Titans and Browns in the days following his pro day. And we're going to bring Jim Wyatt on in a second to sort of talk about if it is clear the Titans are taking Cam Ward or if there's a chance they haven't really made up their mind. And I think based on, I mentioned at the top of the show, the Schefter tweet, I think there is a chance the Titans haven't made up their mind. That doesn't mean they don't love Cam Ward and are thinking, elbowing each other behind the scenes like, hey, I think maybe we should make up our mind, whatever it is. But that doesn't mean that they've gone into their draft room and been like, okay, guys, we've done the full evaluation of all of our options. We're ready to make the decision that it's going to be Cam Ward. Like, they can love everything they've seen from him and not have made up their mind yet. And that's, I think, the reality of where we're at. They love everything they've seen and heard and when they talk to him, but they still need to go to Abdul Carter's pro day, Shedeur Sanders pro day, Shedeur Sanders private workout, and get the comparison. It's almost like when you're shopping for apartments. Like, you go see a great apartment and you love it, but you're still going to go see what other apartments are on the market before you just decide to rent that one, right? Just to make sure you have a sense of why this one is better than the other ones. I think that's where the Titans are at in the shopping process.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear that they are going through a complete, thorough process. Think about it. By the end of the process, they will have literally maximized every single opportunity they've had to meet with both quarterbacks. They met with Cam Ward at the NFL Combine. They brought him in for his in-person 30 visit before free agency. They sent the gauntlet to his pro day, and now they're having a private workout. That is literally the only thing you can do. You can do all of those things. You can't do any more. You can do less, but you can't do any more. They've done it all. With Shedeur Sanders, you could even take it a step further because they met him at the East-West Shrine Bowl right, because he was in attendance there. Now, I don't recall if they had a formal at the Combine with him or not, but they're going to attend his pro day in spades, as we're about to learn. And then they're going to have a private workout with him as well, right? And they also going to bring him in for a 30 visit. So they've done everything they could here for both quarterbacks, full thorough process. And they're going to go through it. They're going to go through it like every team. I mean, the Bears last year, they went through it on. It was painfully obvious they were going to take Caleb Williams, right? So he was like the only team he worked out for, I think, and they were at his pro day, and that was the only time he threw and yada, yada. So I guess, this process remains a little open-ended, and maybe there's still trade opportunities to explore, as people have been tweeting.
Yes, and I think that the factor there, so Charles Robinson actually just said on 102.5 The Game, according to Jared Stillman, the Titans' asking price for the number 1 pick with the New York Giants is, quote, at least 3 first-round picks, quote, or something of that value. Wow. So, I mean, that's a massive asking price, and that can sort of tell you what the Titans think of Cam Ward. But I also think part of going through the whole process before we make up our mind is not shutting down the trade offers. It's like, just in case somebody does decide to offer us 3 or 4 first-round picks, that sort of offsets, because even if you love Cam Ward, there's still a risk that he's not going to work out. And 3 first-round picks maybe makes it easier to swallow if you pass on him and he becomes great.
Can I quickly add, when I think of the trade up the Carolina Panthers made a couple years ago for Bryce Young, I look at the New York Jets and New Orleans Saints as 2 teams in this draft picking 7th and 9th that both have needs for quarterbacks who would have the draft capital if necessary. And keep in mind, remember, when Carolina made that move, they included DJ Moore, right, as a big not just a sweetener, like a big sweetener, a big part of that package. Well, the Jets have Garrett Wilson and the Saints have Chris Olave. Right. Yeah. So both of those teams, and the Titans have a huge need at receiver for a young receiver. I mean, Garrett Wilson's a superstar, right? Immediately the Titans' best receiver, and he's 24, 25. So it's both those teams, again, you're going through this process. If they make you an offer of 2, 3 first-round picks, and they've got Wilson in that, or Olave, Titans are going through this process for a reason.
They would definitely consider it, even no matter how much they love Cam Ward, because, again, there's never any guarantee with any prospect that they're actually going to be good.
What's a guarantee? Probably Garrett Wilson, right?
Right. All right. So for more on this, I think we should bring in our guest now, Titans writer Jim Wyatt, one of the best in the business, writing for TennesseeTitans.com. Jim, thanks so much for joining us today. How you doing? How was it down there in Miami on Monday?
It was good. Yeah, I've been to a pretty good amount of pro days over the years, and I think that one certainly ranks up there as one of the most memorable ones. I think I've said that maybe Cam Ward's pro day at Auburn when he was the top pick was a spectacle at Jordan-Hare Stadium, and then Monday Miami, the turnout, certainly the anticipation of Cam Ward throwing, just the representation from the Titans being there, just how he handled himself during the pro day and afterward. It left a pretty good impression on me, and certainly gets you more and more excited as we get closer to this NFL draft.
No doubt about that. And Jim, it sure felt like, Mike Borgonzi, Chad Brinker, Brian Callahan, it felt like they shared your sentiments, didn't they? It kind of reading the tea leaves and all the clips and the comments and the quotes that have come out, felt like they came away pretty impressed.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think impressed from seeing him throw it. Chad Brinker'd seen him play in person before because he went to the Miami Georgia Tech game in the fall. But for Bergonzi and for Brian Callahan and for Reggie McKenzie and for Dave Ziegler and really the offensive staff that was there, Nick Holtz and Bo Hardigree. It's the first time those guys have seen him throw in person, and I think they were really impressed with his touch, his long distance throws, his athleticism. I think what struck me as much as anything, I mean, I'm never going to say the pro day means more than the games because it doesn't. I mean, what happens on the field is what matters most. I mean, you should look good in your pro day. You're throwing against receivers you're comfortable with. But I think what impressed me the most is maybe just seeing Cam, in his environment, around his teammates, around his family. I met his dad, I met his mother, and talked to Quandre Diggs, his cousin, and wow. Just seeing how he interacts with people. He's a good guy, and his teammates rallied around him. People around the team were certainly. You could tell how comfortable he was with them. He didn't have to give me extra time down there, but he did, and he was great. And so, I mean, just the body of work from him on that day, I thought was great. And the people with the team know him a lot better than I do because they've spent time with him at the combine. They spent time with him on the 30 visit here. They've had extra time talking to him on the side at some of these events, and certainly going to be with him in South Florida here this week to get to know him even better. So they've got a great rapport with him, and they've all talked about what a good kid he is.
Yeah, Jim, I don't know.
I'm going to let you.
Oh,
Yeah, sorry, Graver. I was gonna, well, you say what you want, I guess, but I was gonna let you quickly interject because the Georgia Tech game, it's interesting that one of them was there. I believe you said it was Chad Brinker that was
That's
there,
right.
Jim,
That's
or was
right.
it Chad Brinker? That was a good one to be at, wasn't it, Graver?
no. So that's why you may have seen me shaking my head, Jim, when you mentioned that, because look, Cam Ward had an awesome season. He led 4 fourth quarter comebacks / game winning drives, either down in the fourth quarter or second half comebacks, or game winning drives. And the one attempt at a game winning drive that he failed to pull off was the Georgia Tech game, where he had the fumble that was basically one of the last plays of the game that sealed the win for Georgia Tech. I'm not counting the Syracuse game in this because they lost that game by 4 points, but kicked a field goal with over 4 minutes left and never saw the ball again. So he was 4 for 5 on converting these potential game-winning, game comeback drives. The only game that the Titans were at was the one where he didn't convert it. I don't know, Jim, if you know this, but I'm a huge Cam Ward supporter. I hope the Titans take him. And it looks like all signs at this point, other than leaking it to somebody to report, like a Rappaport or a Schefter, other than that, it seems like all signs are pointing to the Titans taking Cam Ward, and I say that because they flew you out to the pro day. They flew members of the in-house TV media crew. Is that normal for a pro day? Do you get what I'm hinting at here? You said you love talking to him. Are you excited to be able to cover Cam Ward's career in Nashville?
Well, I mean, I'll tell you this. I'm going to Colorado's pro day on April the 4th, where I'll see Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter. And if not for Abdul Carter's foot injury, I'd be heading to Penn State's pro day tomorrow. But that's not happening because of some questions about how much he's going to do. So it's not normal during the off season for me to go to a lot of pro days. But when you're picking number one, yeah, it is normal because when the Titans had the number one pick, what was that? 2000, was that 2017, 18 before they traded it to
16, I think.
16.
16, I
So
think.
boy, time keeps flying by. I went to Ole Miss's pro day that year to see Laramie Tunsil. I went to Florida State's pro day to see Jalen Ramsey and went to Alabama's pro day that year and then they trade the pick. I think when you're picking one, I think you do the homework and the Titans, all those guys I mentioned earlier went on I don't know how they got down there. I shouldn't speak. I know I went on Southwest Airlines. I don't want to give anybody the impression I'm traveling with that crew. I'm traveling on my own and and want to be there. I mean, let's face it. I'm in a different job now. I used to be at the Tennessean. I'm with the team. I'm always going to try to do as good a job as I can working for the team. And so when you're picking number one and Cam Ward's thrown for the first time and you know that you're going to have a bunch of your team officials there, I'm going to make the pitch to go. And so that's why I was there. And people, I don't know if people want people to read too much into it because it's more me trying to be there to see it for myself than, hey, we're picking this guy. Why don't you go down there and talk to him? That's not happening.
Right.
Yeah, that's sort of why we asked. We wanted to know if it was quite normal for that much of the crew to go, right? It felt a little bit different.
It's normal for me to be interested in going and wanting to be there and for trying to do as good a job as I possibly can. But I don't want people to read into that too much because, again, I'll be in Boulder on April the 4th.
Well, Graver, you better return the Cam Ward custom jersey you've already ordered. So just throwing a little cold water on. Jim, this has been outstanding. In closing, one final question. Just from a pure analysis standpoint, don't you feel maybe that if they weren't going QB at 1, they might have done something a bit more aggressively in free agency than just go get Brandon Allen? Like, it doesn't feel like they were players in they haven't been in the Aaron Rodgers thing. So we think Russell Wilson, Sam Darnold, yada, yada. Feels like they haven't been very aggressive at that spot to date.
I get that, and I actually asked Mike Berganzi and Brian Callahan that exact question, and I just posted a story right before I came on here about Mike Berganzi's talking about how impressed he was with Cam Ward, but saying that everything is still on the table as it relates to the first overall pick, and Brian Callahan said the same thing. What they did for Cam Ward, they're going to do the same thing with Shedeur and Travis and Abdul, and said that they're still going to listen to trade offers. So I think everything is still on the table. Now, Yes, the team wasn't real aggressive. And Sam Darnold, we all know he was the I guess the prize this year in free agency, and they just didn't want to go there with him. And then you looked at the other options that were available, and I don't think the Titans were not aggressive there just because they didn't necessarily believe in those guys. But that doesn't mean there still are not some avenues out there to get a quarterback later this offseason. And it doesn't mean that you can't ultimately decide, hey, let's see what Brandon Allen and Will Levis can do in a competition. Look at these quarterbacks in next year's draft, and maybe your better options there. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I mean, I'm sitting here. I'm with everybody else. The way things have played out with Ward, just how he's done, how he's impressed them. Certainly all signs are pointing toward him being the guy, but nothing's written in stone, and certainly anything can happen still with several weeks left in the draft. The report's out today that the Browns had a private workout with Ward today. How aggressive could they potentially be? It's going to test how much the Titans really like him potentially. So a lot of factors still in play. I get the theory that, that they passed on all these quarterbacks in free agency because they had always planned on picking a quarterback in the draft, but I don't think that has to be the case.
Yeah, I agree. All avenues are still open. But Jim, as the biggest Cam Ward supporter out there, I'm going to go ahead and put my tinfoil hat on and say the Titans just need to keep the intrigue because the league needs the draft to be interesting, right? Like, can't we just lean into that side of it?
Yeah, it could be. And I'll say this. I mean, I do this mock draft roundup every year before the draft where I'll talk to you guys, and I really talk to everybody. It's a lot of work, like over a couple of days trying to track down 150, 200 people. I've beginning to the way things are going. And because everybody feels like I think you guys do and like a lot of other people do, I don't know if it's worth my time doing it to have 148 of 150 people say Cam Ward at number one. So we'll see if any more intrigue presents itself between now and then. It may save me some work.
Yeah,
Maybe
I hope so,
say, hey,
Jim.
if anybody doesn't think the team is going to, if you think the team is going to pick somebody other than Cam Ward, let me know. Otherwise, I'll put you down for Cam Ward.
Right. Well, I hope you can save some work, Jim. We know how busy you are. Thanks so much for your time coming on today. Hopefully we can talk to you again soon. Appreciate it and have a good one.
Okay, you guys appreciate it.
All right. Thanks again to Jim Wyatt there. That was great stuff. Kind of interesting. He's going to Shedeur Sanders Pro Day. I wonder, this will be something I'm tracking. Is the video team going to be there? Are they going to be filming stuff at Shedeur Sanders Pro Day? Or
Not
was
fooling
that
us,
just
Jim. We're going to be tracking it.
Or was that just for Cam Ward? All right, thanks to everyone for tuning in. Thanks to Sinkers Beverages for sponsoring this episode, the premier wine, spirits, and beer store in East Nashville. Check out their website to join the in crowd for exclusive perks. We'll be back next week with more stuff. I don't know yet. I'm working on another video similar to the style of the perfect cute quarterback prospect video of a couple weeks ago. Maybe I'll finish that by Monday, but who knows? All right, until next time, y'all stay safe out there. And make sure to subscribe to the channel. I should say this, Justin. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Give this video a thumbs up, drop a comment below. Do you think the Titans have made up their mind? And now I'll sign off. Until next time, y'all stay safe out there and tighten up.
A Broadway sports media production.